Garth, this is the area that I'd like to turn into the bird garden. I mean, we've got this beautiful tree, the Hilaria lucida. Hilaria lucida is a wonderful shrub stroke tree that can be pruned, as you see here with this beautiful bark that's been opened up. It forms a nice small garden tree for any complex garden or even a large garden where you're creating a bit of a border. The interesting thing about this tree is that it actually forms the flowers directly onto the bark. Masses and masses of orange flowers that will just cascade off, and sometimes you even get to see the nectar literally dripping from it. So the sunbirds love this. It's a great spot where birds can kind of hang out and feel safe before they're going to drop down into our bird feeder. That's the one. We'll be able to hang it right from here, Garth.
Yes.
The problem is underneath here. Well, this is what sucks.
Yep.
So we're going to need to get rid of all these plants that are here. We'll leave the coprosmas because they're doing quite a nice job, enjoying the dappled sunlight underneath the Hilaria lucida. But in terms of the begonias and that, they're not working for us. So we're going to take those out. Let's get the soil prepped, and then we can think about that bird feeder of ours.
Okay.
Wow. Folks, this soil needs some serious love and care. You know, when you start digging in your garden and it comes out in these lumps like this, and more importantly, if I can do that, make a clay sod, which I could throw at you, then you know that this is really bad soil. You can also see the amount of moisture that's here. And the problem is, yes, it's got moisture, but the nutrients are locked into the clay particles. And because it's so solid like this, there's not enough air in the soil for the plants to be able to grow sufficiently and be healthy. So if you do have soil like this at home, what you need to do is add in loads and loads of compost. That's what's important. Not only ordinary compost, but you can also add in bark shreds, eucalyptus mulch. You can add that into here, actually dig it into the soil. And another great idea is to actually use river sand, coarse river sand, to dig that into your planting hole, because that's going to improve the aeration of the soil. Of course, if you're living in an area that's close to the seaside, you probably find you've got just the opposite to this. And literally, as you water, the water literally runs off the soil. And that's quite common. In that soil, you've got a very sandy soil. So if you've got a very sandy soil, the same principle applies. You want loads of compost. You also want to add in organic matter. So not necessarily the bark, shredded bark that I mentioned earlier, or the river sand. You don't want to add that. You want to add in compost, and you want to add in breaking up leaf mold. So there for your compost heap, where the leaves are starting to decompose and start that composting process, that you want to take and add in. And the more you mulch your garden, the better your soil becomes. Folks, in these planting holes, we're really needing to get in loads and loads of compost. So in there, round, nice big pile, mix that in with this existing soil that you're taking out. Now that's already looking better. That's it. Pop that into the hole, and here, wow, I've got these guys. This is called Eragrostis. Now, this is an indigenous grass species that grows in many of the grasslands of South Africa. It forms this beautiful plume right through the autumn and right through the summer. And these plumes, the birds just love the seed. Often you'll see, if you're driving in the veld, you'll be driving and it looks like grasses, and all of a sudden a swarm of birds just lifts up out of it. Well, this is what they're enjoying. They love the seeds. It's so easy to look after. When it starts looking a bit scraggly, once a year, cut it down hard. And I mean really hard. Cut it down very, very hard, and the little guy will just come out again with this lime green foliage and look beautiful. You know, the other thing that this plant is incredibly good for is holding banks, because it's got this really matted root system. Grows very quickly and will hold up any banks, no matter how steep. That's good. There we go. Pop this all back. Gorgeous. Put a couple more of these in. That'll fill this area nicely and be a real little temptation for any birds that are around this garden. To add to our smorgasbord of plants that we're going to be using. I've got a wonderful grass which is called a pennisetum. Now, this is its wonderful flowers. I mean, look at these guys, lovely plumes. The birds just love them, love them. This plant can grow anywhere in South Africa, from where it gets minus degrees, even to right on the coast. It is incredibly versatile. And I'll tell you one other thing, that these plumes are beautiful in a floral arrangement. Now this is a really amazing aloe that I've got. It's called Aloe Dewia, and the thing that I like about it so much, it's a Central African aloe because it comes from Uganda and the Congo. Now the Central African aloes are amazing because they come from a more tropical climate, which means they're going to flower for you more than once a year. As long as you have it in the right spot, once it's finished flowering, cut back these dead spikes, it will continue to send another flower spike for you. And that is what is amazing about the Central African aloes. So the thing is with this little guy, you can see a new one is starting to shoot just from the base. Its maximum height is 90 centimeters. So that's the maximum height that it's going to get. Fill up the space really beautifully and truly is a handsome specimen. This is another one of those awesome aloes that flowers throughout the year in months that you'd least expect an aloe to flower. This aloe is called Orange Express. Doesn't get more than 30 centimeters. You can see the height in this pot, nice and short, sending up these single spikes. This is a relative to hedgehog, the one that you might know, that you might have in your garden. And Orange Express really needs to be in your garden if you want to attract birds. It all. Remember folks, aloes are incredibly water-wise plants. They don't require much water at all. In fact, once they're established in your garden, you're not even going to need to water them. From a plant like this that's just come out of a garden centre, water it twice a week until you know that it's settled. Obviously, if you're going into winter and you've just planted it, then do water it at least twice a week to make sure that this little guy is going to keep going. Other than that, don't tell it though, it's not very fussy at all. My final plant to finish my smorgasbord for the birds is this little guy. This is called Chasmatium and it's called the Northern Sea Oats. And you can see why it's called sea oats, because its flowers just look like that. Very, very ornamental, beautifully delicate. In the wind, oh man, doesn't it remind you of wheat fields? Absolutely gorgeous. Birds will love this. Remember, the important thing when you're planning your bird-friendly garden is that you want a smorgasbord. You don't want everything to flower at once. So when you're going to your garden centre, don't choose everything that's got a flower on it. You want some things that aren't going to be in flower so that you can make sure that every month of the year something is flowering in your garden. Plus then you've got the seeds which will just supplement their feeding, and that ultimately will be the perfect bird-friendly garden.